guys, and welcome back. I am finally back. Christina here with Why Not Be Authentic, and I'm so excited as we have a special guest today, Keana Tucker. Am I saying your name correctly?
Yeah, but you can call me Kiana.
Keana. So, Keana, welcome to our podcast, advocating for
Mhm.
mental health and just sharing our stories so that we can help stop the stigma associated with mental health and help other people that have gone through the things that you and I have both gone through, and many people in this world. So, without further ado, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. First, let me say thank you for having me on your podcast and your show. And to your followers that are watching this episode, thank you for watching and supporting me. And I'll just start from the beginning. I'm an only child, born and raised from Chicago, south side of Chicago. Father, an alcoholic, working class family. My mom died when I was 16, which was really at the time, I knew it was really drastic, but I had no idea how me not addressing the grief and the emotion from that then was going to manifest and continue to affect me as an adult. And that was, I would say, the initial first recollection of me struggling with depression and, mental health, emotional issues. And in my 30s, about 5 years ago, when I was 35, I actually had a suicide attempt during a time where I was going through really, again, difficult life circumstance, going through a separation. And it just triggered those same emotions, those same feelings from when I was 16. And then my dad died when I was 31. So I have all these things and I'm piling and piling on top of each other, constantly trying to suppress and run away from. So I was essentially trying to run away from myself when I had my attempt because of all the things that I had never been able to feel and heal. And most recently, I finally realized that that entire journey, my story, my suicide, all happened for me to be able to not only grow as a person, as a woman, but also to teach other people and to share my story and to be a voice of hope for other people that are struggling in silence. Because for me, even as a 35-year-old woman, I did not know where to go or who to tell or how to even tell anyone that I don't want to be alive. That some days I wake up regretting that I woke up today. It's not anything that they teach you. And because of the world we live in, we have this stigma about people that suffer with mental health, illnesses or are feeling suicidal or having suicide ideologies, that we don't make it safe for people to be honest and vulnerable to say, I'm not okay today. And I'm here ready to rewrite this story and say it is time for us to change. And it's everyone's responsibility, all of us, we all have to be accountable for making sure that we are all okay. I used to work in human resources, and most recently I had to leave because I realized that the corporate structure did not value the person, the human, the way that I did. And my personal values just did not match with the corporate culture. So I had to leave. They basically asked me to leave after I declared that
Yeah,
you all need to invest more money into our employees, mind, body, and soul. We need to take care of our employees holistically. And they did not agree with my approach. And that's fine. I can still continue to do this work because I know that this is what they need. I've been an employee. I've been an employee who's been in a situation where they're not doing their best at work. And then they go home and they're not doing their best at home. So where do you go? What do you do when you're overwhelmed? Everywhere you go, you just feel like a failure. I've been there and I see employees burning themselves out, just trying to do what they have to do to survive, but they're not checking in with themselves and
right.
making sure that they're okay first and foremost. And that's what I have to start learning. And now I'm ready to teach and guide other people in this journey because it's beautiful once you go through it and once you learn it and survive it, be able to feel it, you're able to teach and support. And now I see that my journey was to lead
For
me to
a
this
reason.
moment. And it's so beautiful, so wonderful. I just love it.
I'm smiling at you. Well, first of all, I am so sorry for everything that you have gone through. The death of a parent, an alcoholic parent, the suicide attempts and ideation and the divorce, everything you've gone through. It amazes me how much as you're talking, I'm like, my gosh, I'm in the corporate world and you having to quit. Like we have a lot of the same, very similar
Ooh,
story. And well, we're going to have a lot to talk about because I can relate so much to a lot of things that you're saying. So first of all, I'm so glad that we met and connected on
me
Instagram.
too.
Thank you for reaching out to me.
Likewise.
And
Thank
secondly,
you.
thank you for sharing and being vulnerable because it is a very vulnerable place to be because we do have in this world today a stigma associated with mental health. I think that, I had a similar story of leaving my corporate world last year because I felt the same way. I felt like they did not value mental health. They did not value really the wellness
Mhm.
of their employees because life is already hard, right? We know
Yeah.
that. We turn on the news for 2 seconds, or you get in your TikTok,
Yep.
rabbit hole of scrolling and or IG as well. And the world is crazy and it's bad and it's getting worse. We're just aware of it because of social media. But then on top of that, we have to work and get it all together. On top of that, we have to deal with whatever is going on at home. And it's so ironic that you said that when you were 35, I think that did you say when you
I
hit 30
did.
or
Yes.
35, that's when it
35.
all
Yep.
came crashing. Last year
Yep.
for me, last summer. That's why I started my platform, Why Not Be Authentic, and
Yeah.
doing this podcast is because it was like alcoholic mom from childhood trauma, and
Yeah.
very blessed I haven't had to deal with the death of a parent yet. I know that's something that we all go through at some point, but I
Mhm.
can't even imagine going through it at 31. I believe you said you were
Yeah.
when he passed or she passed. Is it your mom or your
My
dad?
dad transitioned when I was 31, my mom when I was 16, and my dad and I weren't even communicating at the time. So it really left me with a lot of guilt and just, again, a lot of unresolved feelings and emotions. So,
I'm sure. If you don't
yeah.
mind me asking, so you said your dad and you were not talking at that time. When did you, and I again, child of an alcoholic parent, where it's been like this with my mom,
Yeah.
gone years without talking, we get back together, we forget, and it's kind of been like this, and we're not talking again since
Mhm.
the tragedy that's happened in our family, dealing with grief. We had a loss in our family that was like one of those losses that punches you in the stomach kind of loss. And how were you able well, before I ask you that, when did you decide that you were going to set this boundary of not having your father in your life because of what he kind of brought to the table, suffering from alcoholism?
Christine, it was probably, I want to say 2013 when I think I made the decision. I had just gotten married. And even though the man I was married to, my husband, I call him my husband now because he was my husband. He and I had been together since college, but we had just gotten married. And my father was not calling me. I got engaged on my birthday and I knew he knew, but he never called me on my birthday to even say happy birthday, yet alone for me to, share this news with him. And then the following year, I just kept saying, where is he? Why doesn't he reach out? I kept having these expectations, and it just came to a point where I realized that the story I was telling myself was that he did not care enough to reach out to me. So why should I keep putting forth all the effort to reach out to him when I'm his only child? He has only one grandchild who happens to have the same birthday as the day my mother died on. So I know you can remember my son's birthday. Why won't you call to wish him happy birthday? So I had all these stories to the point where I said, I am walking away because I feel like I am forcing somebody to be in a relationship with me who doesn't want me. And that's when I made the decision that I am going to stop reaching out. And of course, when he transitioned, it hurt. I wish I would have at least expressed how I felt. Even if we were not talking, I wish I would have had the chance to tell him what was in my heart. And
Right.
I actually had a conversation maybe 2 or 3 days before he transitioned with my best friend that I should have this conversation with him. But again, because I was still stuck in my stories and anger, I didn't even attempt to do it. And 2, 3 days later, I get a call that he didn't wake up. So again, it's like, wow, I can't undo it, but I can heal it. But I held on to it for so long. And I get where you're coming from. And I know my story probably is resonating with you because you're in those shoes. And I can't,
100%.
tell you what to do, but I do just want to, if I can, advise you to just make peace with the situation, however that looks for you, and know that, tomorrow's not promised. We're all human. We all make mistakes. And what I had to realize is that my dad was in pain. I don't know his stories. He never expressed them. And because he was a Black man born in the 40s, Vietnam veteran, he did not know how to express them. He was
Right.
not taught to express them. This world does not make it safe for, first of all, anybody to really have emotions, yet alone a man, a Black man in America. So I don't know his story. So now I just have empathy because clearly he's in pain. He's numbing something just like your mom. She is numbing something that she's trying to repress. So I just started to open up that space and say, I forgive him because I see that he's human, just like I'm human. And
Yeah.
we're all just trying to do the best that we can.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing when, we're going through it and like my mom's alive right now. She's in her 60s. I'm 37. And I have 2 kids. And she's probably seen them maybe 2 handfuls, right? And we go back and forth of my expectation. I don't want I have so much anger and resentment now as a parent. Like, why were you that towards me? Right. And I'm sure with you having a son, that is what went through your head. And that's why you cut off those connections and or those boundaries. And I had to do that with my mom. And then I gave her the ultimatum. I said, I love you when you're not drinking, you're amazing. But when you drink, you are so mean and hateful. And I don't want you to hurt my kids the way that you hurt because it continuously hurts me.
Yeah.
And I have to deal with it now as a parent and try to heal. And then we're going through, like you went through, healing and now grieving a death that we've had. We've had my niece's 2-month-old son passed away April 20th, and that's been really hard. So
Yeah.
then trying to heal through that and grieve at the same time and take care of your kids and be a wife and do all the things. It's so much.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, but you answered it for me. If there was any advice for myself or anyone out there who deals with something similar, like you and I have gone through, an alcoholic parent, an addict, maybe it's a dual diagnosis, a mental health with a diagnosis with addiction of some sort, how do you forgive yourself? How do you just get yourself to get in a place where you're not angry and you're
Yeah.
trying to forgive? You're not going to forget, but you're trying to forgive. And you answered that for me. And I'm starting to realize this now, but it's
Mhm.
so amazing that you are saying it when the empathy now that you have for your father after he passed, because to your point, he was a Black man that grew up in the 40s, was in the Vietnam. What trauma, PTSD did
Right.
he go through, right?
Absolutely.
So when we
Yeah.
are not okay, we do tend to try to seek something to fulfill something to make us feel a little better. And that's how addiction happens. And I don't think
Exactly.
it's ever on purpose. And I know my mom's childhood was not great. I know the details of it, but that's her story to tell when she's ready. So, when did you feel that you could forgive yourself, right? For not
Yeah.
talking to him and also have that empathetic feeling towards him, knowing that he also went through stuff when it's a cycle. It's a repetitive cycle, right? He also went through stuff when he was younger.
That's a great question. It took years and years of inner healing, inner work. And of course, I've been in therapy off and on for years.
Mhm.
Um, but I had to do deeper work, deeper healing, especially after I separated from my husband and I had to start over on my own and begin again because I was in the story of I'm alone, I'm by myself. And what I started doing actually during the pandemic was I started doing spiritual work in addition to mental health, medical work, because I was on antidepressants and things after my attempt. So going into the pandemic, I was on medication, but when the world shut down, it allowed me to sit still and be able to just go within and start to focus on myself. So I started doing spiritual work and I joined this 12-step program called Emotions Anonymous. And it's just like Alcoholics Anonymous or like
Writing that down.
Narcotics Anonymous. Thank you, Christina. Absolutely. Because I know not a lot of people are familiar with this wonderful, wonderful.
I've never heard of it.
I know. Learned about it. Actually, the way God works, the way the universe works is I knew before my attempt, I needed help. And I went searching one day on Google at work and I came across Emotions Anonymous. And I said, this sounds like something I should try. I found out they had a meeting nearby, but I didn't go until after the attempt. Then they came into the hospital and introduced me again to this
Mhm.
program. So I finally went in May 4th of 2019 was my first day. So it's been 5 years. And in 2020 is when I got a sponsor and she and I did each step. And it's literally similar to AA. Actually, it is adopted from the same principles of Alcoholics Anonymous. But what
Yeah.
a lot of people don't realize is essentially NA, AA,
Celebrate
Alcoholics Anonymous,
recovery.
all have to do with the core of emotional and mental healing. So it
Right.
all stems from that same root. So you have people that are in EA that are also members of AA. And it's a program for people who feel powerless over their emotions.
Right.
And that's when I started doing the work. I started writing things down. I started confiding in my sponsor the stories I had been holding on to about my mom and my dad and the things I'd done in my marriage. And I actually, when I got to the ninth step, because I had to make amends with my dad, because I know that I had harmed him. And one of the steps in the program is admitting the people and the things that you've done that have caused harm. And I did harm my dad by not being there and supporting him in those last few days of his life, because clearly he was in pain. And I wrote a letter and I lit the letter. I prayed, meditated, and I lit the letter on fire. And that was a way of me making amends to my
Release
father.
it.
And in 2023, I actually had a mediumship reading, and my father appeared and he said everything that my heart and soul has always wanted. He told me I am not alone. He sees me. He's okay. He was not in pain when he transitioned. He's sorry he couldn't be there for me the way he should have been, but don't forget who I am. He's watching over my son. Actually, my son, he told me that my son can see him, but my son is just not really able to tap into his spiritual gifts yet, and I don't want to freak him out, but I wasn't surprised. And it was just something so fulfilling, Christina, when I first had this experience, I could not stop crying. The level of emotion, it was like this peace of mind, this serenity. It was like this weight had been lifted.
I have chills. Like I literally have chills all over my arm from this. It is.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I met you and you're sharing this story. Oh, and there's so many things that I want to respond to. I'm going to back up a little bit though. I
Yeah.
first of all am so glad that your attempt was not successful and you're here
Thank
today
you.
because you're
Say it all the
here
time.
and I can see that beautiful smile and you're glowing and you're shining and it's amazing, especially for me, someone that's going right now through healing,
Mm,
trauma,
yeah.
grieving, all of it, right? Which is why I've been all over I mean, we've rescheduled this 3 times. Like I'm all over the place, right? Because I'm trying to
Yeah.
do all these things and still do my mission, which is
Yeah.
exactly what it sounds like yours was to help other people that are going through it. But I didn't know that we were going to have this abrupt death in our family. And so
Yeah.
hearing how you have gone through this journey, it is very inspiring to me. When, if you don't mind me asking, and I know this is a sensitive subject, but when you did attempt to unalive yourself, would you say that that was that was the big awakening for you to go, okay, I need to find a program such as Emotions Anonymous? Is that what led you to kind of moving forward? And did you have help? You know, a lot of people I speak to in my live streams are like, I go to the hospital when I've attempted. I don't have the resources. I leave after 3 days and nobody helps me. And
Mhm.
so this gives me hope for so many people that feel like they don't have those resources when they have attempted. I have never attempted myself, but I do know the feeling of I don't want to get out of bed and I don't want to feel like this anymore. And when is this going to stop? And I need to get help because I don't want to get to the place where, that runs in my family as well, suicide
Yeah,
attempts. And I didn't want to get to that place because I'm a mom and I believe in God and I'm a wife and all these things.
for so many
But reasons, right? But when
yeah.
you're stuck in that place and you're dealing with all this past trauma and current trauma and grief and just
Mhm.
everything, and you don't know how to balance it,
It's heavy.
that's and there's a stigma and no one to talk to and you feel alone. That's when people, I would think, tend to attempt, right? Something they've
Yeah,
been thinking about for a long time. Would you
yeah.
say that that's kind of where your mind was when you went through that?
Absolutely. That's a great question because so the program, like I said, they came into the hospital, they introduced me to the program. And then after I was released, I made the agreement to do the intensive outpatient program, which is really consists of a lot of group session. And again, they came in and did a 12-step meeting with us. So when you have that fellowship of community and other people, knowing that you're not alone in your stories and your journey, it makes you feel better
It does.
and you know that, okay, I can do this, we can do this. So that's what really got me into going into the meeting because, like I said, we all made an agreement. We are going to go to this meeting on this Saturday morning at that Friday session. And we did. And it was a lot of us that went in, but it's only a few of us still there. But I know at the time that was the thing that I needed because I still needed to do more work because you're right, Christina. I still, especially after my husband and I made the separation, because I had the attempt in April of 2019, he and I were still cohabitating, although we had made an agreement that we were going to go our separate ways at the end of 2018. So imagine the toxic environment that that creates. So
So
that's
much
when
more.
I started having these thoughts because things started getting heavy and it started getting dark. And I remember having these dreams where it was like I was holding on to myself and it was like I was hanging off a cliff. It's like
Yeah,
me holding me. And I was holding on for dear life. And I was like, what are these thoughts? I'm feeling like I don't want to be alive.
right,
But I kept trying to push it away because it's not anything that you just instantly do. I guarantee you, anybody who had an attempt has thought about it. It wasn't something just happened lightly. This is
right,
something that has been there for a while, which is why it's so important for us to just be honest and ask the question, are you okay? Do you feel like you want to be alive today? I know what that feels like. That feeling of not wanting to get out of the bed. That was me after the attempt. After my husband and I did separate, I moved out in August. I'm terrified. I've never done this before. Remember, I
right,
still think I'm alone in my journey. I don't have anyone because I'm playing this victim story anyway. And I was afraid that I was going to have another attempt and nobody was going to find me because I live alone, is the story that I was telling myself
right,
in the hospital because I didn't trust myself. And that second time, it was horrible. It was nothing like the first time. The beds were different. It was cold. The beds were hard. I said, I'm tired of this. Why are you in here? You don't even need to be here. You need to just do what you need to do. It's not going to change unless I make the conscious decision to change. And it wasn't easy. It took a lot of work. There were plenty of days where I didn't feel like getting up, but I had to. There were
yeah,
days I don't know how I did it. So when the pandemic hit, I was like, thank God, I don't feel like getting up early. I don't feel like getting in the car and driving to work. I
right,
don't mind getting on this computer. I can do that because it gives me a little extra time to get myself together in the morning. And that's when I started putting together the pieces. And that's when I made the decision, I'm going to work the steps. And I reached out to my sponsor, who was a woman I met in the very first time I went into the meeting. But this was 6, 7 months after. So it
wow,
doesn't happen overnight, which is why I know that I have to guide and help and support people in this place. And let them know you're not alone, because I
Right.
know how it feels and I can give you guidance and show you what I did. But it's up to you essentially to put forth the effort. And I
Mhm.
had to realize that because nobody can do it for us. But guess what? We all have it in us to do it.
We
We just
do.
forget. We just
I think
forget.
that's the hardest part, was for me for a minute there, like to get out of bed, like get to push myself.
Yeah.
And it's not that you're wanting to play victim, right? But you
You don't.
you do feel like it. You do, and you feel shattered and you feel alone and you feel like no one can
Yeah.
relate. And that hardest part to get out of it is to go, I am not okay. I need to get my ass out of this bed and I
Yeah.
need to make the phone calls
Good thing.
and do whatever I need to do to get help. I am very lucky and blessed that my husband, it was so bad that my husband made the psychiatrist appointment, made the psychologist
Wow.
appointment. Like I couldn't even
Good.
do it. And I'm very lucky to have that, but a lot of people don't do that. So,
Mhm.
I guess my question for you, for anyone that's listening and that have had thoughts of suicide ideation, that have attempted or are thinking about attempting, or even know people that have attempted,
Mhm.
they're buried down and they're in that bed and they just like what advice would you give? How do we get ourselves to be strong enough to get out of that bed, to Google where do I need to go for an inpatient facility, or what do I need to do to see a psychologist and a psychiatrist? How can I get better? This sucks. I don't like it. I'm not happy. How do we make ourselves get out of that bed to get us better? Because at the end of the day, majority of us, we got to do it ourselves to
Mhm.
get where you are, right?
Yeah. Good question. And it really starts with just asking yourself the tough questions.
Yeah,
First, for me, I always kept saying, how did I get here?
me
Who
too.
was I? Who was I before this story? Who are you without those stories, without those relationships, those people, the heartache, the jobs? Who are you at your core? Remember who you were as a child, because that you that came into this world without the stories, without the traumas, without the alcoholic parents and the heartbreaks and the pain, you are a loving, beautiful being who
Mm.
have wonderful gifts, talent. You have something inside of you that this world needs, and only you can give it to us. Ask yourself, what is it that I want for myself? Who am I without this story? You
Right,
know you're worth more than that situation. How hard do you want to fight for yourself? Ask yourself, how hard do you want to fight for yourself? Because it's only you who can help yourself get out of that space. It's also you that got yourself in that space. So it's also going to have to be you to get yourself out. But you can do it. You just got to be honest with yourself and be willing to put in the work, because the biggest investment that you could ever have is the investment in yourself. How invested are you in yourself?
right. Yeah, self-care, it's so important. Self-care, self-love, speaking to yourself nicely, saying those affirmations,
Nicely.
that,
Yes.
right? Like we have a tendency, and I know that I do this, and I talked about it on my live stream last night. When I am in a down place and I'm still, we're grieving and doing all these things, and I'm working on trying to make sure my medication's the dosage that it needs to be.
Right.
And eventually, I want to be off medication. There's nothing wrong with it, but
It's
sometimes when
not.
we're going
No,
through this, you need that to get you to where you
it
need to
is.
be to get better so you can get out of bed and go to those counseling or therapy sessions and things such as Emotions Anonymous. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that because I've never heard of it. So
Yes.
my next question would be for you, what steps did you take before you found it? Did you go straight into Emotions Anonymous, or did you start taking steps for yourself to get better before you found Emotions Anonymous?
No, I actually did reach out to. So I did. The thing about us, especially as women, we're very self-aware, and our intuition will tell us you need help, you need to get something. But I kept ignoring it, and I actually did finally reach out to my EAP with my company early in April. So I had just found somebody to start talking to, but the thoughts, everything was already far beyond. So it was like, kind of waited too long to start the talk therapy. Yeah, 3 weeks later, I had my attempt. So I wasn't consistent. I had therapists off and on throughout my life,
Yeah.
but never again, and I'm not discounting therapists and the medical, psychological, field, but I do know that for me, the change didn't really take place until I did the inner healing work. That's
You
the
have
thing
to.
that I really needed. And that's what we all have to do. We have to know that we're not alone and that there's a source, a power, a being greater than us that is doing this with us and is trying to get our attention to see that you're about to go through this difficult time, but you're about to come out of it. I want you to trust in me, surrender, have
Mhm.
faith that you can get through it. Again, I didn't know that until I had hit rock bottom. And sometimes it takes that for you to get to
It does.
that because I'm
I
hard
feel
headed
like,
and sometimes I don't see it right away, you know?
yeah.
So I had to, yeah.
And I love that you're spiritual because I am as well. Believe in
Yeah.
God, and I think I'm the only one of my siblings that was really like off and on in church with my great aunts. They would take me, and so and I've been off and on in therapy. In therapy, first of all, therapy's not for everyone, but I also feel like therapy, it may just be the person. It's like a relationship, right? Like you got to
It is
mesh well and have that like
definitely.
vibe going on for it to work. But therapy medication, to your point, only works so much. I am a huge advocate of like, that's what I'm doing right now, right? Like, I'm going to therapy once a week. I do see a psychiatrist to make sure that I'm on what I need to be on. Be your own self advocate, right? But to
Yes.
your point, it takes more than just those two things. And I am so good at buying these self help books and buying these inner work, shadow work journals. And I haven't done them yet, but I know because of how spiritual I am, I know that is something I need to do to help me continue to heal and heal my inner child. And I feel like you and and I don't know if this sounds stupid. I feel like we're almost like light workers, meaning like we've gone through
Yeah.
so much
Yes.
because we are getting through it. And so,
Yes.
because of that, that is a testimony for others that have gone through and have attempted to, unalive themselves,
Absolutely.
who are struggling with PTSD, or parents that are addicts, or maybe they've been abused or sexually assaulted
Yeah.
or lost a child, whatever the case may be.
Right.
Everyone, and that's another thing too. I think everyone's situation is obviously different, but it
Doesn't
doesn't mean that
discredit.
it's not important, right? Like
Right.
it's all
Yeah.
important what we're going through.
Yeah.
And it's never a comparison. It's
Mm.
a way for us to be able to be there as a community and to help each other. And God, you're such a testimony of what
Thank
you
you.
have gone through and what you've been through and what the steps you took to get you to where you are today. And
Yeah.
I am so proud of you. I just met you not that long
Yeah.
ago
I
virtually on Instagram,
know.
but it makes me feel like I'm starting to come back,
Good.
right? Like, and it makes
Thank
me feel
you.
hopeful on the mission of why I've been doing this, why I chose to do
Yes.
this,
Keep doing
and
it.
the steps I need to take to continue. It's funny because I told my husband, like, I might go to Celebrate Recovery. I didn't know about
Mhm.
Emotions Anonymous, but I was like, I feel like I need to do something more and have this community that I can
Yeah.
connect with and spiritually get better and
Yeah.
heal my inner child. And I've even thought about going to like retreats, like those wellness retreats.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to any of those?
That is a great question, Christina. Wow. Yes. So for my 40th birthday in October, I went on a spiritual retreat to Sedona, Arizona. Gosh,
Yeah, that's what I've been looking at because I feel like I need to go
do it.
to a
Do,
retreat. I really do.
do
I
it.
feel like now, obviously, like price is always a thing, so you got to
Yeah.
look at it and see.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that for, just I know that will be brought up in maybe the comment section when people
Yeah.
start listening to us. But having that time for yourself, whether it is Celebrate Recovery, Emotions Anonymous, or like a healing retreat, a meditation retreat, something like just doing
Yeah.
something for your inner healing. I think it's really important for your healing
Yeah.
process. And I'm so proud of
It
you
is.
that you went. So tell me about it. How was it?
Yes. That was like the 2.0 version of my spiritual evolution. Because, of course, when I did the 12-step work, that was the first spiritual awakening. But then I went through a breakup the month before my birthday, and he and I were supposed to go to Jamaica for my 40th birthday. Relationship ended oddly, and because of me knowing myself, I said, okay, you know how you get triggered in these situations. So what do you need to do to make sure you're okay? You need to turn within, look within. And I remember all the things I learned, but I said, but I feel like I need to do deeper work. What does that mean exactly? And again, intuition, I get to Googling like spiritual retreat and I find Sedona and I did my research and I found these places and everything was just speaking to me. I want to clean my chakras and I know I want to heal my energy and I want to do
Yes.
metaphysical work. I know that what's going on is energetic because mentally I'm not where I was at when I was suicidal, but energetically I'm still feeling it in my body.
Exhaustion,
Yes, everything
everything.
worked out. Universe aligned. I ended up going to Sedona. I booked the trip the week before my birthday. And I did what did I do? 7 days, 6 nights because I wanted a very intense
Hmm.
treatment. And the very first day I did it was Saturday, October 28th, my actual birthday. Oh my goodness. When I walked out of there, I did some intense breath work. I did some inner child healing. And when I did that, all of these things and these emotions and all these energies that I didn't even realize I had still been holding on to just all came out, which I needed. And by the time I left Sedona, this me that you see today was awakened. It was in that moment that I realized everything happened for me. I have to serve, I have to be a voice of hope to guide
Hmm.
others. That's my purpose. I've
Yeah.
always questioned why I was here. I always felt like, what is my purpose? I
What's my
know
yeah.
I'm not doing it. And then it hit me when I did that. I said, thank you, God. Thank you for bringing me here because I didn't know what to expect, but I knew, again, intuition. I just knew that everything is happening for me and everything happened so fast. And I was able to go. It was very expensive, but I knew I was worth it.
Yeah.
And at first I did question it, but I said no, because you are doing this for you. You deserve this. And you are your biggest investment. And I never regret it. I've never regretted. So I
I
encourage
am so
anybody,
glad
if you can do
you
it, do it.
And it's
I'm
so
actually
funny you
thinking
said
of opening
Sedona
my own.
because I've been researching. Like, if you ask my husband, and I
Yeah.
have ADHD too, knew where I diagnosed this fact. Did you know if you went through childhood PTSD, you were more likely, according to studies, to develop adult ADHD? I didn't know
Wow.
that till I was going on this healing. And I'm a nurse by trade, and I didn't even know that then because medicine
The
is
things
ever
they don't
changing.
teach you, right?
But no, I've been researching it for like weeks, and I mean like rabbit hole ADHD
Yeah.
researching it. And so make taking notes in my iPhone, and Sedona is the one that keeps popping up. And the reviews are amazing. It is, they're all a little pricey depending on where you
Yeah.
go when it comes to these healing retreats. But to your point, if you're able to financially, like, I know this is something that I need to do, and my husband's so supportive of doing it. Now, here's my question: did you go by yourself? Or did you go with anybody? Because that's
I
where it's
went by
like, you
myself. I went by myself. I needed to go by myself. And I wasn't expecting anybody to go because, like I said, I booked it so fast, but I didn't want anybody to go. This is the very first time I had ever traveled by myself.
yeah,
And I had a ball. It was the best experience of my life. I was a little nervous driving around, the curves and the hills,
yeah,
but after a while, I got used to it. I felt like I was at home and I've never felt better. I put my phone on do not disturb and looked at it as needed, but I disconnected and just tuned into me and focused on what Keana wanted for the very first time in my life. And it was the most phenomenal experience I've ever had. I encourage anyone, if you can, do it because you're worth it. And I can only explain it so much in words because
yeah.
the feeling of it, like I chills just recalling the experience, the feeling. I can never forget it. I recorded all my sessions. My goodness, a lot of tears were shed, a
Yeah.
lot of laughter, a lot of things, and it was wonderful.
Did you make any friendships, like long lasting friendships through it?
I didn't. I did meet some people, of course,
Which I
but
know it's more fulfilling
no.
for yourself.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always wonder, like with the group setting, like how many are in there, especially for
Yeah,
healing, it's personable.
I did everything individual. The way I did
Perfect.
mine,
'Cause that's
it
what
was
I want to do.
all, yeah, yeah. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys, no disrespect, but I need this because right now I don't even know what to expect. I don't even know what I'm walking into. So I didn't even think about a group setting. I was thinking about me and my heart and soul. So yeah, I did it
Well, that's
individually.
kind of the other thing is I kind of don't want a group setting because it
Yeah,
is like you are
it's personal.
shedding, right? Like, I can only imagine all the
Yeah.
amazing like
Oh,
stuff that was just released and what you went through. But that's a like when you've gone through so much, it's a lot. And that's a
it
very
is.
personable, vulnerable experience. And I feel like in order for you to be your true self and heal, I feel like it almost needs to be independently. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a preference, but I'm so glad that you
Yeah.
mentioned that. Now, here's my other question because this gets asked on my live streams as well. If a person say they're not there yet. They're not at a place where they are able to go to like a healing retreat. They're kind of still stuck in that I can't get out of bed. I don't know what to do. Maybe they've been back and forth in and out of the hospital with attempts or saying that, I these thoughts what I have seen in my people that have gone to the hospital with my family members with suicidal attempts or ideation, and what I've heard from other people is, they're discharged in a couple days, and then it's like go find a therapist, and it's really not been a really good continuity of care. And I know every
Yeah.
state is different with their laws and things to that extent, but when recently I was looking at inpatient facilities for
Yeah.
my family, someone in my family, and I was looking at like insurance coverage and what does that look like? And so it's almost like a wellness retreat, but it's a mental health and
Yeah.
insurance covers it depending on where
Yeah.
you go. Did you ever look into that or did you ever go to anything like that, the inpatient for 30, 60 days? Or do you
I
know anything about
didn't. I've heard of it, and I remember one of my aunt kept suggesting she wanted me to go to something like that, but like you said, due to the insurances, that was not even an option. They wanted me to just do the intensive outpatient program where I can be, I can go home every day and come back to the hospital to get
that? Yeah,
treatment. But that was never an option. I think that is a good option if it is, feasible. But if
yeah,
it's not, that's why you have other options. You have other support like EA or like myself. I've been working with people, coaching them because it's really difficult even after you have your attempt. Like, how do you get back to living?
right,
Again, I was struggling with that. And then I went back to work, but see, I'm still living in the toxicity. I'm still in my story. So again, that's how I ended up back in the hospital because I thought I was going to have another attempt, and the chances of having another attempt within the first year of having that one is highly likely. So I'm like, how do I help people in this space because they don't know, because you want to get acclimated, but also too, how do your family and your support system, how do they help you get adjusted? Because nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody's uncomfortable because they don't want to trigger you.
right,
But here's the thing, we have to talk about it. It's not a trigger if you're asking me how I'm feeling, or you just ask me directly, am I feeling that way? So for people that are not able to get into like a 30, 60-day place, make sure that you have good support systems. For me, I didn't even try to reach out. I kept trying to hold everything close. But
yeah,
my friends, after my attempt, they very much so kept a close eye on me. And
that's
even
good.
when I was about to go back in the hospital, like one week, I had completely disappeared, and they sent the police here looking for me because they were concerned
Right.
because they knew my circumstances. So it's important to have a good support system. But you know what else I started doing? I actually started putting up visual affirmations, visual encouragement. So I actually created a poster board, kind of like a vision board, right?
I got one.
With yes, yes, that was helpful for me with all these positive quotes, affirmations. I had them on my bedroom door. So in the
Mhm.
morning when I woke up, I saw these things. I'm like, okay, you can do this. Look at this. This is
Yeah.
going to get you, because that's literally, it's like subliminal messaging.
I
And
do it
that's
with
what
my
it was.
kids too
Yes,
now.
yes, yeah. And I had to start putting pictures up of me smiling, having good days. So if
Yeah.
I'm having a moment or I'm not having a good day, I can look at myself and say, remember? There are
You can,
good days. This is just a moment. You don't have to stay here, because I
yeah,
still have good and bad days, like we all do. And it would terrify me because I thought it was going to send me back to where I was at 5 years
yeah. And
ago, and
that's
I
a
would never go
horrible,
back there.
scary place
It
to be. Like
is.
it is
And I had to forgive myself.
terrifying.
It is. But I had to tell myself, you got this. It's just a moment. Feel it, acknowledge it. Don't be so hard on yourself, because we're so hard on ourselves, and we kick ourselves, and we get guilty and shameful, and then we're making it worse. So I had to start telling myself, it's okay. Allow this to happen. I
Right.
have things. I have a program. I have visual aids. I have a daily meditation book that I read. I again started doing the spiritual work, connecting with my higher power, which is what the 12-step program is all about. So I had to actually put action to start to heal.
I'm really curious about your program. So, looking at your screen, which by the way
Yeah.
is beautiful. So, it says on
Thank
the
you.
bottom, what does it say?
I can't see which way it is.
Oh,
Empower,
empower,
evolve, and bless.
endless. I love that.
Thank you.
So that kind of opens me up to asking you. So you currently coach now for people that are
I
going
do.
through similar
Yeah.
situations. So tell us about that because one, A, I'm interested. B, I
Yes.
bet there are so many listeners right now, one that can relate to your story in one way or another, or maybe from everything, right?
Yeah.
But two, they're looking at you and admiring you and going, okay, you are a success story. You attempted and you got through it and you did the inner work, the things that you needed to do to get yourself back. Like you say, not every day is a great day, but look at you. You're smiling and you're thriving, and you are doing what you know is best for yourself so that you can continue to heal. And you have healed, and you've given us so many great, I guess, pearls of
Thank
information,
you.
including Emotions Anonymous. I wrote that down. But so tell us about your program so people that are listening know where to find you, know the cost, know what it entails, and how it can help them.
Asking. So my program is about empowering people to be able to rewrite those stories, to turn those trials into triumphs. Like I had to learn, like we're not victims. So I'm here to support you in your journey, to help you acknowledge what it was that happened. But now, how can we reframe this? What does that look like for you? A lot of times we get stagnant and we get stuck, and we're like, well, this is just the way it is. I don't know anything else. But then when you work with somebody like me and your awareness starts to open up, you start to look at life different, the world different, and you start to look at yourself differently and see all the potential that you have, and start to rewrite that story of whatever the thing is that has held you back from sharing your voice,
Right.
or starting that new job, or the business, or writing the book, or whatever it is that has you afraid to just be your authentic self, which was me. And
Right.
that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to guide you, empower you to see you have everything within you, and just to remind you and show you that, and then help you frame this story, a success story for how you can rebuild and create a life that you love, and
I
whatever that
love
looks
that.
like for you. Yeah.
I love
And I
that.
speak, and I speak, I share my story with people. I also speak at outpatient settings, schools, just really trying to
That is
reduce
amazing.
the stigma. Thank you. And shed
Yeah.
more awareness. I want to create a world where we can normalize having these conversations. I want us to have a checklist of things to do when someone is feeling suicidal, or someone is telling you that they feel like they want to take their life. We need to be able to have resources readily available, just like we do for heart attacks, so things like that. We think, and I'm adamant about us implementing these things, because the time is now. We cannot pretend like it's not happening. More and more people are dying by suicide, and it's my mission to save lives
Younger
more.
and younger and
Yes,
younger,
it starts with the
especially
young
with
one.
social media.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. I have a 16-year-old son, and I'm grateful for my story and my journey, because he has seen me go through this, and he's seen me be a survivor and rewrite it. And I told him I will be at your school, so get ready, because he doesn't want his friends to tease him. But he did agree it needs to be done, and he's like, I think you should
Yes.
do it.
is so proud of
Yeah,
him.
so he does agree. So that's my mission. I'm here to help support women, men, whoever needs it, because I know we all struggle with just trying to identify our emotions and struggling in corporate. I can support you in the corporate world. I have so much HR experience and
Oh my gosh, that's a whole other
helping you.
conversation we got to have
Yes,
talk about
yes,
because I know we're running low
that
on
is, that's a whole nother episode. Yeah. So by the
time.
time you work with me, you will realize you have endless possibilities available to you in this world. You just have to reframe your mind. You just have to be able to evolve your mind, your body, and spirit. It has to be a holistic change.
I love that. And so when
Mm.
someone decides, well, one, where can they find you? And then
They can
two,
actually,
well, go ahead and answer that first.
I was gonna say they actually reach out to me on my Instagram at I am Keana Shatteen Empowerment, and they can send me a message. I will reach out to them. I'm actually probably going to I'm not sure yet. I'm thinking about possibly doing a just like an introductory session with a bunch of my followers just so that they can, get a better idea. But I can also do individual one-on-one, sessions as well to
Yeah,
support people. And people
that's
have been reaching
awesome.
out and I love it.
Yeah,
Thank
and I think
you.
this is going to be another great way when people tune in. Whether you, again, this will be streaming on my channel, Why Not Be Authentic, on YouTube and Spotify. This episode with Kiana, she has given us guys so much pearl. Like I could talk to you all day long. So many
And I could
pearls
talk to you.
and
Thank
so many
you.
things that you've gone through, but also what an inspiration, what a testimony for others that are currently going through it. And I think you're right. I think this is exactly what you were meant to do. And I think that that is why, like yourself, myself, we've gone through the things we've gone through because we are taking the steps to get better so that we can be better for ourselves, but we can also help others. And I think that
Absolutely.
you're also correct. This world, it's a crazy place and we want it better for our kids, for ourselves, for our kids, for
Yeah.
the future. And
Yes.
we've got to stop the stigma associated with mental health. Because of that stigma, I think that you are correct again. That is why those suicide rates are increasing dramatically, including in younger individuals. And
Yes.
so the more that we, people like yourself and myself, share our stories and share our success stories and help each other, the more that we can be one step closer to saving one person's life, right? And that's what it's
Yes.
all about.
Absolutely.
Well, Kiana, I know that we are close on time, so I want to ask you, is there anything, any thoughts before we leave that you would like to share with your followers, my followers, people listening?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you again for allowing me to be on your platform. I love Why Not Be Authentic. Why not remind all your followers, my followers, to be authentic? Don't
Mhm.
be afraid of what you're feeling. Be yourself, be empowered to be and feel and say whatever it is that you feel. It's okay to not be okay. Know that if you don't have anybody else, I promise you, soulmates, you can always reach out to me. Leave me a message. I don't mind. I want to help and encourage you in any way that I can, because you're not alone in your journey. So don't ever feel like you're alone and don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed because you are valuable and you're meant to be here. So the world needs you.
Love it. Such encouraging words, guys, from Kiana and her, again, her testimony, her story, her strength, her resilience, and what she's done and gone through, and now what she's doing for other people. Such an inspiration. Thank you so much for being on
Thank
today.
you,
I want to
beautiful.
do this again because there's still
Me
so many questions
too.
I have. And I'm
Yes,
sure
well,
our
let me
listeners
know.
are like, we got to get her back on. Guys,
Yep.
yes, thank you for tuning in. Remember to follow her. She's on IG.
Thank
And are
you.
you on any other social that they can
I
follow
am.
you?
I'm also on TikTok at KS Empowerment, Facebook as well at KS Empowerment, and Threads at I am Keana Shatteen.
Okay, perfect. So I wrote that
Yeah.
down. So when I do post this,
Okay.
I'll make sure I tag you in it. But thank
Thank
you again for
you.
sharing your
Thank you,
story. You
beautiful.
are amazing. And I
Beautiful
can't wait to do
lady.
this again.
Me too. I look forward to it. Thank you. You enjoy the
You're
rest of your day.
Of
Thanks
course.
for
And guys,
having me.
thank you for tuning in. Until next time, we'll see you then. Have an amazing day.